So we're making progress on the add to cart functionality, at least the very basic first version of it. Let's now go to app.js to wire it up. When finding a user, I'm storing it in the request like this, and this actually should be all right. However, it's important to understand that the user, as I'm storing it here, will just be an object with the properties, so the data we have in the database. All the methods of our user model will not be in there because the user I'm getting here is data I'm getting out of the database, and the methods aren't stored there. They couldn't be stored there. So to have a real user object with which we can interact, I should actually create a new user here, and then simply pass user.name, which is my username, how it's stored, user email, user cart, and user underscore ID. So I should create such a user object and store that in the request, because now this enables me to really work with, all the user data or with the whole user model. And this now allows me to also call all these methods like add to cart on it. So with this change to app.js, we can go to the shop.js file in the controllers folder. And then there, I want to work on the post cart method for now, which allows me to add an element to the cart. I do get my product ID here, which is nice. And then we have all the logic here for fetching what's inside the cart and for updating this. I will actually comment this out because for now, we don't need that. So instead, what I want to do is here, I want to fetch the product I want to add here. So I will use my product constructor, my product model, and I will use find by ID to find a product by the product ID I'm extracting here. Now I'll just add the then block here, and in here, I should have the product I want to add to the cart. Therefore, in here, I will now use request user, which now is our full user model, and call add to cart and pass that product I fetched as an argument, because in the user model, add to cart does expect a product. And then I return the result of update 1, which will be a promise. So back in the shop.js controller, if I return that promise inside of then here, I can simply chain another then block where I get the result of, in this case, my update operation. So I'll just console log that result. Now, with that, let me go to the shop.js routes and let me add that cart post route again. Let's now go back to products and let's give this add to cart button a try. And I get an error here. The problem here should be that if we have a look at our view, at our product list EJS file, that for add to cart, we have that add to cart EJS snippet that include where I pass my product to. But in add to cart EJS, I still access product.id instead of underscore ID. So I need to change this in order to pass on the ID correctly. So now if we reload that products page and I click add to cart, now we get stuck here, but actually we were successful in a way. We did actually modify something as our result tells us here. And if we quickly go to Compass and have a look at our users, you see there is an embedded document, a cart document with items with an object which holds product data. Now that user ID here is a bit redundant because we already are in that user. We could strip that out and only store what we want, but it also doesn't matter too much. The important thing for us here simply is that we now store a whole product, which we do also store in a separate collection as part of an embedded document in our user. So we clearly have duplicate data here. We have the same product here as an embedded document, and we have it in products. So this is maybe something which we should change, because if we change the product right now, if we change the title or the price, this will not be reflected in the cart. And in the cart, we should have correct data, because if the price changes, we can't show the wrong price in our cart, right? So actually, we'll need to tweak this a little bit more. In our user model, where I store a product in add to cart, well, I actually don't want to store all product data in this object and then the quantity. I just want to store the product ID by creating a new object ID here and passing product.id as an _id as an argument, and the quantity. So now only the reference and the quantity and not the rest of the data. If I now save this and I click add to cart again, it gets stuck again. It doesn't matter too much right now. If I now update my users, I get an error here. That should be product ID, product underscore ID. I forgot the T. So now again, if I update this and I click add to cart again, and I reload my users document here or my collection, now you see I'm only storing the reference and the quantity. And this is exactly the information I want. If I now want to display information about the product, I have to fetch that manually because I only have the ID. That, on the other hand, is all I need for fetching information. So that is what it is. But on the other hand, if I now do change my product, I don't have to change it in the products collection and my users, because that would be a lot of work for data that might change quite a lot.